He knew what was coming. Everyone in the square knew, and not a single person looked away. In medieval Europe, there was one punishment so horrifying. Executioners themselves dreaded carrying it out. It wasn't quick, it wasn't painless. Some victims survived for days. They would break every bone in your body one by one while thousands watched. And here's the part that makes your blood run cold. The crowd cheered. The breaking wheel was used across Europe for over 1,000 years, from the Middle Ages all the way to the 1800s. It wasn't random, it was reserved for the worst crimes: murder, treason, robbery, and sometimes spreading the plague. Public executions were entertainment. People traveled for miles to watch. They brought food, they brought their children. For the rulers, it was a message, a demonstration of absolute power. Fear was their greatest weapon. The condemned would be paraded through the town first. Everyone would see them. Everyone would know what was coming. The wheel itself was simple, a massive wooden wagon wheel, but what they did with it, that's where the horror begins. First, they'd lay the wheel flat on the ground. The victim would be tied spread eagle across it, wrists, ankles, completely helpless. Then the executioner would pick up his hammer, and the breaking would begin. The executioner would start with the limbs, the arms first, then the legs. Each strike was calculated, precise. They were trained to hit the bone exactly right. The first blow would shatter the forearm, the bone splintering under the force of the iron. Then the other arm, blow by blow, bone by bone. The victim couldn't move, couldn't escape. The crowd would react in different ways. Some looked away, others leaned in closer. After the arms came the legs, the thighs, the shins, every long bone in the body shattered. By this point, the victim's body was unrecognizable, limbs bent at angles that should be impossible. But here's what made this torture truly evil. They didn't kill him, not yet. After every bone was broken, they would weave the victim's shattered body through the spokes of the wheel. Then they'd raise the wheel up on a pole, like a crucifixion, and leave him there. Hours would pass, then days. Some victims survived for an entire week on that wheel. No food, no water, open to the elements. Birds would come, and they wouldn't wait for the victim to die first. Sometimes, if the executioner was feeling merciful, he'd deliver one final blow to the chest, ending it. But mercy was rare. The body would remain on display for days, sometimes weeks, a warning to everyone who passed. Now let me tell you about some of the real people who faced the wheel. Peter Stumpp, Germany, 1589. Stumpp was a serial killer accused of murdering over a dozen people, including children. The village was terrified. When they finally caught him, the crowd didn't want a quick death. They wanted him to suffer. They broke him on the wheel, then they quartered him alive. His execution became one of the most documented in history. Then there was Peter Niers, also Germany, 1581, accused of 544 murders. 544 people. The court sentenced him to 2 days of torture before the wheel. They tortured him for 48 hours first, hot irons, pliers, breaking his body piece by piece. Then they put him on the wheel and struck him 42 times, 42 blows. Johann Patkul was different. He wasn't a killer, he was a nobleman, a gentleman from Latvia. He was condemned for treason by the Swedish king in 1707. His crime, speaking out against the crown. A priest named Lorentz Hagen witnessed Patkul's execution. He wrote down every single detail of what he saw. His account is one of the most disturbing first-hand records of the breaking wheel ever written. Every blow, every scream. In 2013, archaeologists in Milan made a horrifying discovery. They found the remains of a young man, between 17 and 20 years old. Every long bone in his body was broken. The fractures were too precise to be an accident. Every bone was hit perpendicularly, exactly how the wheel was used. But here's what made this case even more tragic. This boy was physically different, shorter than average, unusual teeth, The researchers believe he may have been executed not for a crime, but because the community saw him as a freak. During the plague, they needed someone to blame. They found buckles near his body, used to hold a shroud around him, to keep his shattered remains in one piece. The breaking wheel wasn't abolished until the 1800s. For 1,000 years, this was considered justice. This is Dark History Horrors, all sources linked in the description, every story verified, because the truth is terrifying enough.